talk about it. We are about to snatch some stars. Okay. Let's talk about the new Texas law. I know you've heard about it. I know you've been thinking about it. You may have questions about it. We're going to talk about it this now so that you understand what the law means, what it means for you, what it means for your family, even if you're not in Texas. How about that? Right? Let's talk about that. So y'all heard the Texas law. Let me just clarify for some folks what the law say and what it doesn't say. So basically it says that it prohibits abortion after cardiac activity is detected. For most people, you know that it happens about 6.5 weeks. It's typically when cardiac activity is detected for pregnancy. Does it prohibit abortion for rape and incest? Yes, it does. There is no distinction that says that if a woman has been raped or a victim of incest, that she can have an abortion. Does it prohibit for medical conditions? Very narrowly, like you basically have to be dying or almost dead as a result of having a pregnancy in order to be able to have an abortion in the state. And then it goes a step further and hired a whole bunch of bounty killers for clinicians. And basically prohibits anyone, not just people in the state of Texas, but people out the state of Texas to be able to file lawsuits against anybody, including mother of a child who may have been a victim of rape, from pursuing or aiding the young lady in having an abortion. So are y'all feeling like Handmaid's Tale? Like, I don't even watch the show, but I feel very Handmaid's Tale.
If you don't come on with it, because I'm like, dude, the Handmaid's Tale is on its way.
Listen, was it prophetic? Is the Handmaid's Tale prophetic? Is it prophetic? Is that what we're saying?
Baby,
let's talk about it. So
losing rights left and right now.
I want to know, where were y'all when y'all heard about this legislation that got implemented? So other states have tried, but have encountered legal challenges. This is the first time it's actually been implemented and has challenged Roe v. Wade. So let's talk about it. What did y'all think when y'all heard this shenanigans?
I heard basically you can, in the state of Texas, you can get paid to rape.
Okay, let's talk about it, because your homeboy done said, don't worry about it. We gonna catch all rapists and put them and lock them up.
What's up with all the rape kids that's like 20 years old? Like, come on, bro. Come on, don't do that. Don't piss in my back and tell me it's raining. I am so tired of old white men legislating ovaries and my uterus and all that stuff. Like, stop. So it's just, it feels as if you can like you can get paid. So if you rape your 12-year-old daughter and she gets pregnant and she legit needs to have an abortion, you could sue her, the mother, the doctor, and I think you can sue for like somebody said like $10,000, something like that.
Minimum.
Okay, minimum of
plus
$10,000
lawyer fees.
Okay, so you as the rapist, but then there's no charge for you for raping your 12-year-old, but you can sue your 12-year-old for raping her. I don't like that. Like, how do you have a law where you could
suing who?
The rapist can sue the victim and or the doctors or anyone who is trying to help this kid have an abortion, and she's 12. Yes,
anybody can be sued.
I'm going to jail that day. I'm
anybody
can
everybody. Sue any of the people involved.
Show me that literally.
Anybody.
She said she's gonna shoot up everybody. I just want to make it clear to our viewers. She doesn't mean that literally.
Right. No. That is a view.
That's just how bad I am.
That is legally protecting you, Karen.
And it's practitioners. That is Karen alone.
Listen.
Sorry.
No, we feel the anger. We understand. So tell me, Karen, why do you feel so angry about it?
That's ridiculous. Like, how are you going to sue somebody for getting raped? Like, people don't actually get raped. And I'm gonna tell you, from a person that got raped, if somebody's to sue me for me getting raped and I had a baby that I didn't want, come on now. That is ridiculous. That is take my life now. Just take my life now. That's all I can say. It's like, wow. Just take my life. That's how as a rapist, a person that got raped, that just take my life. You already violated me, my whole body. And then you want to charge me and get some money that I probably don't have.
Force me to have a kid.
Just take my life now. And you want me to bring in another person that I didn't ask to bring into this world? Come on now.
Yeah. I was about to ask you what you thought victims of rape and incest and abuse were thinking when they hear it, because not just people who are raped, but if you were abused of any kind or undergoing abuse, you're hearing these laws, you're witnessing the change in the legal system that has historically made victims feel victimized. That part, right?
Already.
Historically.
That's a trigger right there. That's a trigger right there. Just to hear that stuff, like that very much upsets me, to all these laws that they have going on. Like, Lord, we need to start praying a lot harder, because this is not this world right here is not where
my thing is this ain't the Lord's work. This is the work of 9 old ass white men who who erected this damn law or whatever have you. Like I just coming from working in sex abuse and child welfare, and to Karen's point, seeing how hard it is for a victim to stand up for themselves and come forward, this is just a slap in the face. It's like I just can't say it. Like you're paying men to, like you're paying people to rape. Like I don't understand. Like how do you pay someone to rape, but then are you also going to get charged for the rape itself? Like how does that? Like,
because historically, as much as you say it out of your mouth that you're going to go after them, and you haven't really said how you plan to do that, there's no policy, there is no initiative. You just kind of proclaim that this is what you're going to do, but historically you haven't. So, treat us like the intelligent people that we are. And when we hear that, we call it BS, because we know that's what it is. What were your thoughts about it, Dr. Trissa? What did you think when you heard about this?
I went through and I read through the article to make sure I understood the points of it. And the only thing I kept thinking about is, y'all really don't give a damn about the lives. You keep talking about how we're saving these 50,000 lives in the year or whatever. Then what are you going to do after? What are you going to do with them after? What is your welfare like in the state? Are you actually going to take care of them? Or are you going to sit down there and tell them, well, then you should not have children? So you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't tell us that we don't have any choices. And then when we only stick to the choice that we're given, you want to turn around and complain that we're using the welfare of the state. And the thing that I'm thinking about now, and I don't have it in front of me, like, what are their cases like? Like what percentage of their population needs assistance? Because you're going to be having a lot of children coming into a society where they're not going to have any support. What is it that we're going to do for these lives that we're saving?
Yeah. And sorry, just with the whole pro-life stance in a state that doesn't really follow COVID restrictions and laws, it's just so contradictory. And it seems like the only
that is quick to put people on the death penalty.
Exactly. And it seems like the only realm in which they wave this pro-life flag is when it comes to regulating women's bodies. So what do you guys say? Because there are women out there who are in agreement with these laws, right? Who may not truly understand how this creates a domino effect. So that equal pay that they want to have, those equal rights that they want to have, how does a law like this, you guys, relate to all the other levels of equality that women have been trying to obtain for so many years from the inception of this country? We have never gotten there. So for women who are in support of this legislation, what do you say to those? Because they're going to say, we're women too.
They don't have no experience. Sorry. My thing, like, are you a woman who already had the choice to have her kids the way she wanted to have her children? Is what I want to know. Are you did you make the choice not to have kids, but now you're trying to make the choice for someone else to have kids and or not? Are you still of reproductive age? You know what I'm saying? Like I just don't, those would be my three basic, those would be my three basic questions.
I'm right on.
It's like, how are you going to take someone else's, like, you had your choice.
Right.
And I'm sure you benefited from, the law didn't forgot, what's the law, y'all? I just
The
told
Roe
you.
versus Wade. Roe versus
Yeah, Roe
Wade.
versus Wade. So I'm sure you benefited from Roe versus Wade. I'm sure these women who are pro this law, I'm sure you might have had a miscarriage or abortion or two prior to. You benefited, or you took advantage of the Roe v. Wade decision to benefit yourself, but now you're trying to take that choice or decision away from someone else's own autonomy over their body. I'm just it's disheartening. It's very disheartening.
Yeah. And you know, again, just, you know, emphasizing and highlighting, it's about a choice, right? And I think one of the misconceptions is that abortion is an easy decision for women, right? That is oftentimes a misconception, because literally you're saying that by the time a woman realizes that she misses her cycle, she has 2 weeks to determine whether or not she wants to have an abortion, 2 weeks to determine whether or not a decision that is life altering for some women, and for some, and we'll talk about the aftermath of abortion in a few moments, but it is a life altering decision and a life affecting decision. And you want her to make that decision in 2 weeks. Again, undermining just how difficult the circumstances are for women who actually seek abortion as an option, undermining their right to make decisions for themselves. This is about the right of women, and women having the right to have the say about our bodies. You allow us to have the say about everything else that we do, whether we drink, whether we smoke, whether we choose to drive without a seatbelt. But when it comes to our bodies and the caring of a child, there's always a supplanting of this. And it does feel like white supremacy ideology. It does feel like that, because the women that are most affected historically have always been, number one, Black women, and other women who are in minority groups. So this does seem like a very classist and status thing to do, because the poor population have also been the most affected by decisions like this. So here you are in your White House, no pun intended, making these types of decisions, you know. And to your points, I don't remember who raised it, but all your points. One, you have not demonstrated that you even will prioritize rape kits getting done. And two, you have not given alternatives and support for the victims of abortion. And I do say victims of abortion because I do believe that women who are looking at abortions as a solution have been failed by society on one level or another.
Yes. So, and when you're talking, Dr. T, that was just, I mean, damn. Yes. Like, drop the mic. We can end this conversation as well and be done.
I mean,
I think if we're talking so pro-life, how is this even pro-life? So you're saying the life of a fetus is more important than the person's life that's carrying the fetus? I don't understand that. Because if it's pro-life, if it's pro-life, why isn't it pro-life for myself? Because is that undertaking, could that be like a deadly undertaking, like having an abortion? Abortion is not a woman's first choice.
Exactly. Can you say that one more time for the people in the back?
An abortion is not always a woman's first choice.
Thank you.
It is not. Women do not use abortion as a form of birth control. We do not. And so that misconception, I mean, let's just go ahead and demystify that as well. But when a woman decides to get an abortion, Dr. T, Dr. Joe, medically, is that a huge undertaking on the body? Like, what are the ramifications, or what is the word I'm looking for? What are some
of the potential complications and risks?
The risk or the potential complications of undergoing an abortion?
So, as with any pregnancy, once a woman is pregnant, she's already at increased risk for something. And the most common things are bleeding, infection, and we talk about the physical complications, but let's also talk about mental health complications, right? So you certainly could have injury to your uterus if you're not having a medical abortion. And if you are having a medical abortion, you can have reactions to the medications, just like any other medications. You can bleed heavily, requiring blood transfusion. As you get further into pregnancy, these complications increase significantly in the second trimester. Injury to the uterus, bleeding, infection, name it. However, let's talk about the psychological aspect, the part that most people don't talk about, the part that I deal with in the office that we don't really talk about at all. And part of that is the psychological grieving. It's a loss of a child for a woman. It is a loss of a child. And just like the loss of a child from a car accident, just like the loss of a child due to an IUFD, intrauterine fetal demise, just like the loss of a child from a miscarriage, women who have abortions mourn the loss of a child. And in some cases, so do their partners, if their partners are supportive. And so let's not forget that. I have had women who have post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of having a termination of pregnancy. So the fact that I feel like we don't love on these women, like we treat them as outcasts. And a lot of times women will not disclose the fact that they've had an abortion in their OBGYN office unless they trust you. That's how I get them to talk. Because oftentimes they are living in these walled in, self-encaved prisons because of the guilt that society make them feel. Like we're able to forgive everybody. We forgive the mass murderer in jail. We let people out who attempt to kill the president. I'm just saying that's what's going on right now.
We let those get away who riot the Capitol. I mean, yes. I'm just,
let's go through the list.
Yeah. So,
but when it comes to women and abortion, this seems to be the one quote unquote sin, because this tends to be more of a religious argument. This is the one sin that apparently is the unforgivable sin. I don't know what Bible they read, but this apparently turns into the unforgivable sin that leave these women in this place of darkness. And the fact that we don't love on them, help them to heal, except people like me who help them to go through a recovery process and programs that are out there that are actually abortion recovery programs, because we know this exists and we know that the resources are for the most part not there. Because we know that unless we do so, these women will continue to live underproductive, underfulfilled lives. It is a huge issue. And it's a huge issue that we do not support. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm real passionate about women's rights.
Do you, though?
I'm sorry. But it's a huge issue when we don't give them options and support. When we say to them, we want you to carry that child, but we are not going to help you. You figure it out. You figure out how you're going to feed that child, clothe the child, house the child, nurture the child while you're undergoing your own emotional healing. If it's a child as a result of a rape or incest, while you're trying to figure out your mental health, try to get that stabilized, but you want to nurture another human being, right? And some people may argue and say, well, why not just put the child up for adoption? What are some of the things we're not considering with that option that women do consider, that women do consider these options? That's one myth that's out there, that women don't consider adoption. They do consider adoption. I would definitely tell you that they do, but they don't. Why is adoption so hard? What are some of the things that people are missing? Why adoption is just not an easy, like, okay, I won't have an abortion. I'll just put the child up for adoption.
That's still hard. That's hard. Even aborting a child or having a miscarriage, that's still hard, because now that you done had 9 months of holding this baby and developing and everything, now you're looking at this child, gave life, and like, I don't want the kid, but you still like, dang, like I brought that life into it. Now you're going to give it to some stranger that you don't even know and happen to see that family. And yes, it could be a family out there would be definitely happy, but in the back of your head, you're like always, this kid gonna want to find me one day. This kid gonna ask questions. Why did you give me up? Why this? Why that? And you have to answer that if you want to. But I'm just saying it's gonna be in the back of their head. Like, I'm gonna have to answer these questions if this kid ever find out who I'm truly is. So that's hard. That's very hard.
Did anyone hear about any mental health or supportive services for victims of rape and incest to be able to carry a child for 9 months?
Mm-mm.
Nope.
And how do you do that with a kid who, like, no, to answer, like, Karen, your point was beautifully made. And Dr. T, to your point, no. Because and plus, these programs are some of the first programs that are cut when you're trying to maintain budgets, when you're trying to fund your state or whatever have you. So the very same thing you're telling me, you're forcing me to have a child, to bear a child. And if you are a 10 or 12-year-old who is raped and has to be forced to bring a child into this world, what is that going to do to your body, into your mind, to all around, emotionally, physically, mentally? What is that going to do to this 12-year-old? You're telling this 12-year-old at an early age, however she feels, her boundaries, whatever, are not relevant,
Value.
are not valued. So what you're doing is setting her up for a lifetime of, well, if a man says I need to do this, then I guess, that's just like, she'll have, you're setting a precedent for young girls to second guess themselves, to devalue themselves, or to not have a way of setting boundaries for themselves. So it's a very dangerous precedent that we're setting if you're talking about the mental health aspect of that. Have you ever met someone who, we talked about domestic violence in another situation, in an earlier taping? These women are prone to those types of relationships as well. So we have no idea. Well, we do have an idea of the precedent that we are setting for these young girls. And to your point, Dr. Moore, no, there's not a lot of services that are being provided for, victims of rape or victims of abortion or victims of that and being forced to keep a child. Absolutely not. Those are some of the first programs that are cut when you're trying to fund your state. So I don't know. The long-term effect of that is going to be detrimental. That's all I can say.
Jumping back to your point, Dr. Moore, regarding how it sets up things for women in the future. You think about this scenario and you're having this 12-year-old who now has to become a mother by force. How is she going to continue educating herself? How is she going to continue preparing herself to take care of this child for life when she herself is still a kid? She has no clue yet what her career path or any of these other things can be, where she can become a more productive member of the society, but you're expecting her to then turn around and take care of.
And trust and believe she will be, it'll feel like a punishment for her, because let's not forget, in child welfare and police, she's a minor child. And if the mother or the father cannot keep, let's say it's the father and the mother doesn't leave the father, the mother is no longer able to keep that child safe. One, she didn't leave the father. Two, the kid got pregnant. So more likely that child and her child will go into the system.
Point.
You understand what I'm saying?
Chastity, so, oh my gosh, explain that again, because I didn't even think about that, but you're right, 1,000% right.
You can't leave a kid, like, regardless of, so not regardless, but the law is what it is in Texas. However, there's child welfare and there's police. That is forcible rape. And if the mom doesn't leave, if the mom or the whomever, if the guardian or the parent is unable to keep that child safe, first of all, it's a minor with a kid. 9 out of 10, if the mother or the father cannot keep that child safe, that child and the child that she'll be forced to carry will now be removed from the home and placed in protective services, which is now the burden of the state. And or if she's of age and still forcibly raped, and she's unable to take, to Dr. Joe's part, it will be the burden of her parents. You see what I'm saying? So
yes.
either the kid will be removed and it's going to become like I said, a burden of the state, and the state is going to have to raise that kid until the state is satisfied that the child is safe to return home.
Right. Oh my
so
gosh.
There's like that trickle down effect. There's still you may say abortion law this, but there's still child welfare, and there still is the police. It's forcible rape, and she's a minor child.
Mm-hmm.
So
wow, I didn't even think to see this is why we have diverse specialties on this platform, bringing the receipts, hunty. Okay, and to your point, that's if she survives pregnancy, because we know that
part.
Yes.
That teenagers,
does that become murder then?
That's an interesting question, but they would have to value the life of women first to even consider that, right?
You know what? I'm gonna click off for that one, because how I get out of here? Because then we can just end
that.
Like
that seems to be the underlying problem right there. Okay. We know that pregnancies are more complicated on both ends of the age spectrum, the young women and the older moms. Equally at risk for severe complications during pregnancy. We know that our teenagers are less likely to be consistent with prenatal care. We know that they're more likely to have nutritional deficiencies. We know that they're more likely to have preeclampsia. We know so many things about the risk of pregnancy and being an adolescent, or the risk of pregnancy in terms of your mental health when you have been a victim of rape or a victim of any kind of abuse. Your pregnancy becomes high risk if your depression and your anxiety as a result of that experience, as a result of that trauma, puts you in a high risk category. For those who have post-traumatic stress disorder, your prenatal care becomes more intensive. And there's so many layers. Women who can't bond with the pregnancy, women who, there's so many things that are so consequential of what seems to be a simple law in the hands of somebody who has never to deal with any of the issues or consequences of their decisions.
The other thing is this though, Taz, the other addition to that story is, what about those who cannot afford to have those abortions? What about those who don't have insurance? You're a 12-year-old, you're under your parents' insurance. So if they don't want you, so what about the things you do to try to abort that kid? Not saying naturally, but what are the things you try to do to abort that child because you can't afford healthcare, or you don't have proper healthcare, or you don't have access to healthcare?
You bring
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you bring up another great question. Let's talk about how we got here. That's basically what Chastity is asking. How do we get here? We got here because women were using hangers and having backyard abortions and leading to the death, which, people just don't understand how risky and how death-defying it is to try to do something like this on your own. That's how these laws came into effect, because of these black market abortions that were taking place, where women were dying as a result of it. So don't think that your law is going to prevent a woman from doing what she feels that she needs to do, because when you're in a survival mode, and a lot of people don't know what that feels like, but when you are trying to survive, you will do what you need to survive. And for a lot of women, this is survival. This is not just a choice, it is survival. And so, how we got here is because of that. And so when you don't have additional resources to help them, you are literally allowing history to repeat itself. That is the problem. You're not going to convince them not to do it. This has never worked. Just like the stats that have shown you that that not making birth control available and waving the flag of abstinence never worked. It never worked. The states that pulled back the birth control options for people have higher pregnancy rates, because the abstinence flag just have never worked. But we seem to keep trying to beat this horse over the head, rather than creating economic advantages, creating health resources, improving access, improving the good social workers like Chastity on our couch here this evening, who will take care and make sure that these kids are safe, so they're not in these circumstances where they are continually being raped or continually being abused and ultimately get pregnant. That is where we need to put our efforts and our resources. But we constantly seem to just always be focusing on the women at the end point of the issue, not the beginning of the issue, but the end point of the issue. The pregnancy is the end point. It is not the beginning of the issue. And what we need to do is to deal with all the issues that led to these women becoming victims. And I will always say victims of abortion. Abortion is a circumstance that no woman wants to be in. Everyone who has to face that as an option is a victim economically, a victim in terms of her safety, a victim in terms of her healthcare access. You can go down the list and multiple factors, you know, and so, but the other part of this that really blew me away is the bounty on the heads of clinicians. I mean, this is just, it is, I don't even know what to say for it.
I have a quick question before you get to that. So let's go back to when you said the abortions, how it used to be done illegally with the hangers. Now, I always wanted to know this thing. I always heard a myth. I know they did all kinds of stuff to have abortions or miscarriage or whatever. If a lady rolls down a flight of stairs, is she possibly going to lose that baby?
Not necessarily, because early pregnancy is behind the pelvic bones. So it really would require a significant traumatic event in early pregnancy to lead to an actual miscarriage, a high impact. So, you know, unless you're really rolling down like the Empire State Building, it's not always that you are going to, I'm sorry, I'm visual. I'm sorry.
That's a long flight of stairs. Okay.
I'm like, dang, should she?
And that's what a lot of people don't realize. Like, when you're entering the second trimester and the uterus is now in the abdomen, it doesn't create as much of a safety net as the abdominal muscles don't create as much of a safety wall as your pelvic bone structure does. So the pelvis is great at protecting the early pregnancy because it's hard to really have a high impact that is so forceful that will surpass the protection of the pelvis itself. So you're really talking about women who are at least in their second trimester for rolling down the stairs to really potentially cause a miscarriage, but it's not a guarantee. And certainly if you're dealing with a high impact event, you're having more consequences than just a miscarriage.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So girls, I'm sorry. I thought we were on the actual literal couch. I got so comfortable. I called y'all girls, ladies.
It's all good. I am not offended. I am not offended.
You know, I will say this in some, when it comes to the clinicians coming out, and not even out, we're still in a pandemic. Okay. We're still in a pandemic. And we have clinicians that are risking their lives on a daily basis to make sure the United States of America is safe, to make sure that people are able to return to their family members safe. And to the audacity of anyone to create a law that compromises the health of women, and then on top of that, put a bounty on the heads of physicians is an absolute disgrace. And we are snatching your star, Texas.
Texas. Yeah. My question is, I completely agree with everything that everybody has just said. And I just want to understand, I don't like when people do this and hide behind the pillar of religion, because this ain't in the Bible. I'm sorry for your luck. This ain't in there. And I ain't read it in a long time, but this ain't it. However, but my question is, I feel like you have to have a supreme strong, hate is a very strong word, but I'm like hate -1, like a strong dislike for women. Like, are we nothing to you but a damn vessel for procreation?
For some people, yes.
Change that up.
Okay.
It's not really the cure for procreation. You are a vessel for my usage.
This is the second time I'm about to click out of here tonight.
Because you know what? For some of these people who are going to tout this law, let's not front. They may not have to have the effects of it physically, but I'm sure they've doled out the cash. Let's not play.
Oh,
so you are going to be the vessel of my usage as I need you to be. And if I need to say that this is what you're gonna do next, and this is what you're gonna do next.
Ooh.
Well,
let's drop the mic on that one.
Right. I think we all should just click off at this point.
Listen.
You can find me at What a Touch.
And how many? Listen, let's talk about it. Who's really utilizing these services? We see.
That's what she said. Let's be.
Listen.
Because like if you pull back, the thing is this, like, first of all, okay, I'm about to just be real. I'm about to be chastity. I'm gonna leave my LCSW to the side. I am really starting to begin to feel like, Trisha, I can't be eloquent as you. I'm starting to feel like men dislike women, but like sex. You don't like us per se. Like you said, Dr. Joe, you just like what we can provide for you, the usage of us. So, but you're saying that we can understand that as 4 grown women. How can you say that to a 12-year-old child, a 10-year-old child who is able to conceive? Like, I started my cycle at 10 years old. So a 10-year-old who can conceive. How do you explain that she does not have a choice? She didn't have a choice in being raped, and she didn't have a choice into this kid that she is carrying. So you are manifesting into her that she has no free will over her own self and her body. How do you explain that as this man who has, as these 9 men who have mothers, who have daughters, who have wives? Like, nobody talked to y'all? Like, y'all
privileged lives.
What happened?
Privileged lives.
Well, there we go.
Privilege. Go
ahead, babe. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Now I want you.
No, I was done. I'll jump in on
that part.
Huh?
I'll jump in on that part. Besides the privileged life portion of it, there is a feeling or a desire or even like a mental training that they're to be served, right? Everything and everyone around me is to serve me.
Handmaids.
Right? So yes, they have a mama, but mama took care of me and took care of everything. Yeah, they have a wife. The wife is there to take care of this. My daughter is there to take care. It's about me. It's about serving me. It's about doing what I want. It's about following what I want. Yeah, they have these people around them, but they have boosted that ego to feel like, oh, you are the greatest in the world, and yes,
enablers.
But if you pull that closet back to Dr. T's point, they have utilized some of these services that they're trying to prevent other folks.
We see you.
Right. So like those who live in glass houses shall not throw stones, because trust and believe somebody's going to pull the curtain back on those 9 men who came up with, I think 9 men and 1 woman, or just all straight 9 men. I think it's like 9 men.
Yeah. Was it 9 men? I have to double check. I know it was,
what I saw 9. Was 9 men.
It was definitely 9.
I saw all men. Unless I was missing somebody, but I saw
it may have been. Double check us on that, and if you know, drop the comment below. But Chastity brought up the religious point. I'm gonna touch on that because I know all my religious folks are watching this like, but the Bible said, "Thou shalt not kill."
And the Bible said that you should take care of the widows and orphans. What about that? Sorry.
Hello. We got receipts in scriptures. Hallelujah.
Does it not say that the first commandment is to love? This is how we'll know that you are his disciples. Is this love? Does this look like love? Does this feel like love? That is your first commandment. So you can forget everything else until you pass go. Unless you figure out how to love other people, ain't nothing else count. That is your first test. So you can
love thy neighbor. Isn't that one of them too?
That is the first commandment. Perfect the first commandment. And then you could talk about everything else. But unless you have mastered the ability to love somebody who doesn't look like you, who's not related to you or serves you, You should not be passing go and making up any kind of laws in the name of anything that even reflects the Bible. Okay.
Do I need to tell you my donation, my tithes and offering, Dr. T?
Yeah,
preacher, you preaching real good.
Right, I'm gonna tell you my tithes and offering. Like you preach the word. You and Dr. Joe dropping receipts and scriptures.
As Deacon Joe, because people like to look at part of the Bible and not look at the whole scripture. Y'all don't get me started, but I will say this, people.
Speak on it.
I will say this.
They do.
Yeah, we like to, and then we also like to misinterpret scriptures to feed our own ego.
To benefit their narrative.
Yes. Yes. But we gonna undo some of that stuff, right? We gonna figure that stuff out. But this is my personal philosophy when it comes to when you're dealing with things that you morally feel is incorrect and you feel like the Bible supports that, right? So when you look at your own life and all the sins that you've done, sins of omission and sins of commission, check me later, I'll explain what that is. Have you been perfect? Have you been stainless? And if you haven't, or if you've come from a life that you felt was a life that biblically will be considered a life of sin, and you have converted into this beautiful flower butterfly, the same God that took you from that position to that position is the same God that can manifest in anybody else's life. You are no superior to anybody else. Okay. And so if you truly believe that the God that you serve or claim to serve has the power to do the same thing in other people's life, he don't need your help. Okay. What you need to do is to focus on what he told you to do, which is to love that person, to show that person love. So if you truly believe it, then you will act like you love somebody, because that is the actual thing that he commands you biblically to do, is to love that person. So I'm just in right there. Okay.
Amen.
And the church
Holy
said,
Ghost
amen.
Amen. Amen. About to do a Holy Ghost saying something here.
We love women. We love women. Because that, and I had to go there. We try not to talk religion on this platform because this platform is for all religions. It's a platform for women to really vibe and have these very critical conversation, but this particular issue is always slated on Christianity. It's always Christians that are pushing this narrative, and always mostly men that are pushing it. They don't even have the decency to sit down and have a conversation with a woman who's been in these positions, including in the churches that have been pushing this anti-abortion, anti-this, anti-woman narrative, but won't even sit at the table with me and commune with me. Like, how does that work? You won't even commune with those of us who are in the field, who are caring for these women that you have traumatized with your words. But I'm just going to leave that right there. I'm going to leave that right there. Anyway, we just want to make it clear. We are not saying this evening that we want you to be pro-abortion or anti-abortion. We want you to be pro-love, pro-life for all people. That's what we are saying. We are empowered. We want women to be able to make the determination of their journey in this life that they're given. It is theirs. It belongs to them. They have the right to make the choices for their own lives, regardless of how old they are. If you treat them like an adult, then you allow them to make adult decisions. Okay. So I don't care how old she is. Once she has crossed over into that realm that she is pregnant, she now becomes emancipated in many states. Okay. It is it is her right to make the decisions over her body, over her life and what she wants to do, and be confident and support her in a way and show her love that she is able to persevere regardless of what decision she made. And if it is a decision that you do not approve, then you open those arms and you receive her with all the love that you have to give her. I'm gonna leave it there because y'all gonna make me emotional over this. That's all I'm saying.
Well, you can find, I'm going to do what Karen did. I'm at Miss Snapchat on Instagram.
Yep. And you can find me at What a Touch.
I mean, like, I'm just like,
come on, Dr. Jones, get your handle right.
I got it. TristanJob.dpt on Instagram.
I'm like, this right here was extremely, it's really powerful. Like, I know
Wait,
There's
hold
a
on.
lot of-
Let me wrap it up and then we'll stop the
Oh, we are
recording.
really wrapping up. Okay.
We'll wrap it up. I
Okay.
agree with you, Chastity. This was absolutely powerful. You guys can tell I love women. I am passionate when it comes to the lives of women. This is my heart. And so you can find me, the hand behind the handle of Healthy Bump .club on Instagram. And if you want to talk scriptures, come at me. Let's do some systematic theology. Let's do some word study. Okay. And you can hit me up at Dr. T. Moore if you want to have those conversations.
Let me find some church music to take us out. Wait, hold on. I'm trying to find some Jesus music.